Alright, welcome back. This is lesson number 2 of Unit 6 on solving equations. This time around we're going to be solving equations with probably your favorite thing in the world, algebra. Okay, so we've seen before methods where we just kind of use trial and error, putting numbers in and going through the equation using a method called inspection. And those two methods work fine, except if we start to deal with large numbers or complicated equations, then it's usually a lot faster and a lot easier to solve them algebraically, which means to come up with a solution by creating an equation and then moving those numbers around, shifting the variables around until we get an answer. Okay, so an example here is Mr. Trask's hockey team gets 2 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, and 0 points for a loss. At the end of his season, his team has a total of 32 points and has tied 8 times. All right, if we want to do this algebraically, there's a number of steps we're going to follow. I'm just going to kind of lay them out here. The first step is to write our equation. So I'm just going to go back through my question. I'm just going to sort of highlight anything that stands out to me as possibly being important. So for example, 2 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, 0 points for a loss. Well, those rarely ever happen. At the end of the season, a total of 32 points, and he's tied 8 times. So I've got a bunch of numbers there that I think are going to be might be important. We know we ended up with a total of 32 points, and I'm getting 2 points per win. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let W, I'm going to say W is going to equal the number of wins. I don't know how many that is, but that's going to be my variable. If I win, then I get 2 points for every win, so that would be 2 times W. You can see here I also tied 8 times, and each tie is worth 1 point. So plus 8, 2W plus 8 is my number of points, and that has to equal my total here of 32. So there's my first step. I've got an equation that I can potentially solve. 2 times the number of wins plus 8 more points should add up to a total of 32. All right, the next step is kind of the big one, and this is something called isolating the variable. So what do we mean by isolating the variable? Well, to isolate means to basically to be on its own. So if we look back at our equation here, if you take a look, this is the variable that I'm interested in, W, and I've kind of got 2 things here. I've got the 2 in front of the W, and then I've got this 8, which are both on the same side of the equation as the W. And so if I want to isolate them, basically what I need to do is I need to come up with a way to move these 2 numbers, to get rid of them, move them over to the other side of the equation. Now, the way we're going to do that is a step-by-step process, and in order to figure out which steps we're going to do, we're going to use a little mnemonic device that I like to call SAMDEB. Now, if you're thinking that you recognize SAMDEB, you're probably right, because you'll notice it's the exact opposite of BEDMAS. And if you think back to BEDMAS, what all these things stand for, we've got subtractions, we've got additions, multiplications, and divisions, exponents, and last brackets. Now, what I mean by SAMDEB is when I have my equation, I'm going to move things one at a time to the other side of the equation, and I'm going to follow these steps right here. So I'm going to move anything that's a subtraction or an addition first, and then I'm going to move anything that's a multiplication or a division next, and then I'm going to look at exponents, and the last thing I'm going to look at is brackets. Okay, so I've got my equation 2W plus 8 is equal to 32. And the first thing, if I look at my list of SAMDEB, the first thing that I notice is I've got a little addition right here. So the first thing that I'm going to want to move is this right here, this plus 8. That's the first thing I'm going to want to get rid of. Now the way we do that is we're allowed to do anything to one side of the equation as long as we do the exact same thing to the other side of the equation. So, for example, I've got 2w plus 8. And the question you want to come up with is, what is the opposite of plus 8? The opposite of plus 8 is minus 8. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides of my equation. Okay. So 8 minus 8 is effectively 0. So these two things cancel out. And they're gone. And I'm left with, on this side of the equation, I'm left with 2 times w. On my other side of the equation, however, I've got 32 minus 8. 32 minus 8 is 24. And we've gone one step closer to solving for this variable here, w. You can see I don't have any other term here added on to my unknown. All I've got left is this 2w, which is the next thing that I want to get rid of. Okay, so I've got 2w is equal to 24. And you want to ask yourself, okay, moving down the list, subtraction and addition, taking care of those. The next is multiplication, and I've got a 2 multiplied by my w. So in order to get rid of it on this side of the equation, I need to do the opposite of whatever it's doing right now. So 2 times w. What is the opposite of multiplying by 2? Well, the opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. So I'm going to divide this side of the equation by 2, which is fine as long as I also divide the other side of the equation by 2. Remember, I have to do the same thing to both sides. Okay, so 2 divided by 2. Well, 2 divided by 2 is just 1. And so 1 times w is just w. And so again, what happens on this side is these two things cancel out. Now I know I've taken the right step when the number on the same side as the variable gets canceled out, if it just gets removed. On the other side of the equation, I've got 24 divided by 2, and 24 divided by 2 is 12. So this is actually potentially my answer. 12 wins in a season. The last step that we're going to follow is to take that number and do something called verifying. Which means we're going to take this number here that we arrived at, and we're going to go all the way back to that equation right there, and we're going to check it out and see if it makes any sense. So let's do that now. Okay, my original equation was 2w plus 8 is equal to 32. Now, assuming that w is equal to 12, like I found out, I'm going to take this 12 right here, and I'm going to substitute into my equation wherever I see that w. So that would become 2 times 12 plus 8 equals 32. Well, 2 times 12. Now we're going to go back to our bedmass rules. We're going to do this multiplication first. 2 times 12 is 24. 24 plus 8 is 32. And last time I checked, 32 does equal 32. So we know that we've gotten the right answer. Looks like 12 wins in the season. Okay, so to quickly recap, the steps of solving the equation. Number 1, write the equation. Number 2, isolate the variable. And we're going to do that by following SAMDEB. The last step is to verify your answer. All right, that's it for lesson 2.